Hello! She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law is just around the corner, so I thought this would be the perfect time to explore what we can possibly expect from the new Disney Plus series, both in terms of prior knowledge from a layman, hello, and what we've seen in the trailers. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I need 1,000 subs before I can get paid for this. Or if you like, you can give us a quid over on Patreon, link in the description. Right, now that's out the way, onwards with the video. I'll be mentioning stuff from the trailers and the featurette, so don't say I didn't warn you. The She-Hulk series has a few questions it needs to answer. Nowhere near as much as Black Panther 2 does, but still, a few things have happened in the MCU recently. They range from a second Thor showing up, to a giant tentacle monster attacking New York City, to the Westview bubble, to this. The MCU has always had a bit of an issue with the world building, but no more so than of late. Such events would have significant effects on the world, or would at least be newsworthy, so it would be nice to see an attempt at connecting or explaining them. She-Hulk might be the perfect conduit for explaining the world building, given its apparent fourth wall breaks and self-referentialism. More on that later. Some of this can be negated depending on when the She-Hulk series takes place. With Abomination and Wong turning up, there could be a scene leading up to the Shang-Chi fight. One also mentions which is in Doctor Strange, so this might take place before that film? Unless Wong doesn't know Doctor Strange destroyed the book, which would be awkward. Then again, we have a shot of Bruce Banner before Jennifer Walters is She-Hulk, so it can't be? A radical idea could be the series jumps along its timeline. For example, we're introduced at a time after all current events, then we go back to see how we got there. This wouldn't be the first time that's happened of late. And it might help to explain what happened to Bruce Banner. As mentioned, we see him in the featurette, and we already know, thanks to Shang-Chi, that after Endgame he reverted from Hulk back to Bruce. But we also see Hulk in the trailers. This would be a perfect opportunity to show the process by which Banner becomes Professor Hulk, or Smart Hulk as he's named in the script. And this could lead into some interesting dynamics for the Hulk-Banner relationship. As a side note, I hope they confirm whether Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner are doing the horizontal monster mash.
I'm so sorry, I have to deal with this. You can get my number from Bruce. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, I don't have her number.
The series also needs to explain where all these superpowered people are coming from. Previous films and shows don't just have supervillains or heroes turn up willy-nilly. Unlike a lot of other media of late, superpowered people in the MCU have origins, explanations, narrative purpose. Seeing so many pop up in the trailer has me worried that the MCU is going to go the same way as everyone else. I.e., everyone has superpowers now, no idea why, roll with it. Let's hope that isn't the case, as they've been doing a good job of it up till now, both in the MCU proper and its side hustles. Speaking of, Daredevil is in the trailer, and now I have to ask, are his Netflix shows canon in the MCU? I hope so. They were pretty flipping good, and it would be a crying shame to get rid of them. Although that would then need to account for Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Hand. And that just adds more onto the tangled web of Christmas lights that is the MCU world building. One last thing that is particularly pertinent right now is Doctor Strange. Wong is obviously shown here and there, as well as magic users of some kind. If they are present and up to no good, then you'd hope Doctor Strange is getting in on the action. If they are, and he's not, then that definitely needs explaining. Unless that part of the series takes place after Multiverse of Madness and Doctor Strange is off with Chalice Therion playing with his third eye. Anyway, As with other characters, She-Hulk's origin would need to be explained, and here is where I have a significant issue. In times past, She-Hulk was born of a blood transfusion with Bruce Banner. In the cartoon, which is where I first saw it, Jennifer and Bruce were captured by...
Oh yeah, Dr. D.
Jennifer was dying and needed the transfusion to live, and Bruce Banner was the only one who could donate. Think about the moral choices around Bruce Banner giving Jennifer Walters his blood. On the one hand, the transfusion will save her life. On the other, Bruce has no idea what it will do to her. More often than not, Bruce grapples with the Jekyll and Hyde problems of him and the Hulk, so potentially giving that to someone else is a difficult decision for him to make. The fact Jennifer and She-Hulk end up the way they do does not take away from Bruce's choice, nor the effect it might have on his psyche. Unfortunately, it looks like She-Hulk Attorney at Law is removing all of that.
Jennifer Walters is an attorney who has accidentally taken in the Hulk's blood.
Now there are plenty of ways this could play out, and this could still be done well in the series. For instance, the car crash in the trailer looks to be the thing that injures Jennifer and Bruce. Their blood mixes, but nothing happens until Jennifer realizes that Bruce is severely injured and they are miles from help. In her panic, she hulks out and saves an unconscious Bruce by jumping him to hospital. This is one possible scenario amongst many that could play out to make this good. The fact remains, Bruce's choice has been removed. The question is, why? Established backstories aren't always set in stone. More often than not, it's better to keep the solid, familiar foundation and build a new story on top of it. But they can be changed, if there is a narrative reason for it. For instance, Superman's dad dies when Clark Kent is young, providing Clark with a sense of perspective on who he can save and what he can prevent, as well as allowing him to experience that great sense of loss early on in his life. Or his dad can still be alive, providing him a pillar of moral support as he grows older, even into his superhero career. Changing She-Hulk's origin from Bruce Banner's difficult moral decision to a circumstantial accident could have a strong narrative reason behind it. Whatever the reason for the change, I hope it was a good one. Everybody loves a montage. Montage. The second trailer had a lot of people worried about how good She-Hulk was going to be, specifically in regards to the Hulk. She even says in the trailer,
So I'm clearly nailing it at all these things.
this has been taken as a sign that she's going to be better than the Hulk at everything. Personally, I don't think so. Paying closer attention shows little details here and there, like this cliff looking like it's about to collapse under She-Hulk, or the casual lob Hulk does compared to She-Hulk's effort. There is plenty of leeway given here that She-Hulk might not be as awesome and perfect as the trailer is trying to make us think. But who knows? I might be wrong. We won't know for sure until we see it properly. I was wrong and right. Perfectly balanced and all that. So a couple new She-Hulk videos were released. We get some new stuff, including this absolutely terrifying image, what on earth is going on here? As well as some longer existing stuff, including the two clips I just referenced. On the one hand, I was wrong. She-Hulk does outdo Hulk in the ground pound. Yep, they literally call it a ground pound. She outdoes him so much, Hulk gets annoyed and pushes her off a cliff. Don't panic, she survives. On the other hand, I was correct. Hulk outdoes She-Hulk in the rock throw, after getting annoyed, again, and launching one into space. A mixed bag then, but these clips of the Hulk continuously getting annoyed might be bolstering another idea, which I'll get to in a minute. Onwards. One thing I'm intrigued by is the folder.
You have so much more to learn.
What's in the folder? What else is there to learn? Is that just the notes about jumping and throwing and whatnot? Or is there something else as well? Has Smart Hulk discovered something? Don't you be letting me down now, show. In the trailers, She-Hulk is accosted by the village people. Okay fine, one bloke had what looked like a hard hat on, shush. The featurette shows these guys wielding magical weapons. Looks like some sort of stick, gauntlets, a meteor hammer, and a helmet? There's also these bat-type things. Oh god, it's the Berts from Godzilla vs. Kong. They've come to get me, no! And we have Wong saying,
"Our universe is on the edge of a precipice."
all of these suggest some greater narrative for the series that a non-magical She-Hulk is going to get caught up in for some reason. This I'm not 100% on. All too often Marvel, well actually not just Marvel, superhero shows in general usually have some world-threatening story going on. These can be good, exciting, climactic even, if done right and sparingly. I think it's safe to say that's not been the case in the past few years. They also cause world-building issues. If there's a massive something going on that threatens the world, then where is everyone? It's a question that keeps getting brought up, but is rarely answered. If the magical stuff is an indication of a big world-threatening event in She-Hulk, I'm going to be disappointed, especially considering the other stories that they are already hinting at that might get swept away by such a big event. Bruce Banner and Hulk in times past did not like each other. I could write an essay on why, but very long story, very short, they resented each other because they had conflicting natures and interfered with each other's lives. Jennifer Walters and She-Hulk appear to be more in line with one another. Appear to be. We already have hints of conflict in the trailers.
Just want to be a normal, anonymous lawyer. Oh, I'm not a superhero.
From the looks, we might be getting divergent personalities. Towards the start of the series, Walters and She-Hulk are practically the same person. But as the show goes on, She-Hulk becomes more outgoing and Walters tries to crawl back into the life she used to live. If so, we could get some very interesting parallels with Banner and the Hulk, but developed in a very different way. She-Hulk has often been presented as a very sexual character. Again, my introduction to her was in the cartoons, and I shouldn't have a hard time finding enough clips to fill this section up. But this is also from the comics where, from what I heard, she got into a bit of trouble for sleeping around. It appears from the trailers the series will also be following this line.
You know that friend you had in high school who was way cooler than you were attractive? Got all the attention from everyone. Hello.
Given how Marvel, and specifically Disney, usually try to downplay the sexual aspects of their female characters, it will be interesting to see how this develops in the series. My guess? It will be shown as a negative aspect of the character and become a source of conflict between the more professional Jennifer Walters and the outgoing, promiscuous She-Hulk.
Oh, Ben, thank goodness you're here.
Thank goodness you're here.
Speaking of which, granted these are very hopeful thoughts, I think that we are going to see a resurgence of the old Hulk in this series. From the odd look of frustration to this shove to this line.
I think I'm jealous. Is that what I'm feeling?
I think, or hope, that these could be the start of some destabilization in the Banner-Hulk balance that could lead to the pair becoming separated once more. Perhaps we might even get a She-Hulk versus Hulk conflict at some point. This is wishful thinking, I know, but if there was a time to do it, this would be it. The Hulk doesn't get much love cinematically, and I can understand why after his first outings. But he has proven to be popular with fans, especially after being given more character in Thor Ragnarok. If Marvel and Disney don't feel confident about giving the big green guy his own film or series, then She-Hulk is the place to explore the finer nuances of the character, especially coinciding with She-Hulk and her development. This could, and I hate to say this, lead into She-Hulk taking over from the Hulk in the MCU. I can even think of a story that could work around that, but let's not get into that now. The consequences of one's actions can directly influence one's actions. Cause and effect can sometimes be effect and cause. Films like Captain America Civil War and Batman vs Superman are examples of superhero genres taking note of their consequences. The interesting part isn't necessarily what the action, consequence or punishment is, but how a character deals with it. She-Hulk Attorney at Law offers the possibility of exploring those reactions, of superheroes and villains having to face what they've done in brutal, unashamed clarity. Even more interesting is the concept of defending such people. Imagine how Steve Rogers might have felt if he found out She-Hulk was defending Zemo. But it could get better than that. Imagine Matt Murdock prosecuting the client of Jennifer Walters, and the two of them coming into conflict, both in the courtroom and out of it. Beyond that, She-Hulk defending heroes and villains is the perfect opportunity for Disney to do what it's been doing a lot of lately. Cameos. Get some of the cast from other films and shows to appear, even if it's literally a minute or two of screen time. It will be a cheap pop for the audience and a sensible, viable threading together of the MCU as a world. A courtroom in a world with superheroes and villains is fertile ground for storytelling. She-Hulk Attorney at Law has the soil, we just have to hope it plants some good crop. Jennifer Walters and She-Hulk will be breaking the fourth wall. Blah blah Deadpool, something something first. As long as it's done well, I'm all for it. From what we've seen so far, it is? We've got this silly commentary as well as self-referential stuff. I do like a bit of self-referentialism, but they do need to be careful with it. Already the one joke, about narcissistic orphans got people's knickers in a twist. The joke is correct, but there's being correct and being respectful. Something fans of the MCU are worried about with every new character coming to take the place of a previous one. Playing the meta can also be a shot in the foot if done wrong. The Boys is a perfect example. A show that pokes fun at the modern world, corporatism, the woke appeal, you name it, they probably have a reference or joke about it. But at the same time, The Boys does those things itself, which can sometimes make its jokes and references seem shallow and unaware. It's good that She-Hulk will be making fun of itself. It does need to learn from it though. In my initial drafts of this script, there's one thing I completely blanked on. Emil Blonsky, Abomination. Well, mostly blanked on. I have already referred to him, but it was only in reference to something else. As an individual aspect of the series, I didn't give him much thought, mainly because Shang-Chi made me think of him only as a key jangling cameo. However, watching the trailers and featurette again and again, it makes me think good old fish ears might be more of a thing than I initially thought. There could be a whole episode focused on him, or he could be an overarching Hannibal-esque villain for the whole show. Moreover, it could lead into the Banner-Hulk conflict, if there is one. I said earlier about Steve Rogers being angry about Zemo being defended. Imagine how Bruce would feel about Blonsky. Any which way, there's potential here. The CGI here ain't brilliant, but it's also kind of plain, not that funny. Oh, this is brilliant. Look how bad she look. Wait, that's not CGI, that's just the actress making a face? Here, this is perfect. Now I just have to zoom in and make that the thumbnail and use it to show how bad all the CGI is in the show. Brilliant. Yes, this is taking the piss out of the bad She-Hulk trailer takes I've seen online. Like I said in my other video, it's not the CGI that's going to clip the wins of this show's success. I've already discussed the good stuff that could potentially happen. Now let's quickly discuss the bad, because let's face it, that's what most everyone is expecting. Number 1. She-Hulk might actually be better than the Hulk in every way. From physically to psychologically, you name it. There will be no difficulty in mastering her abilities, nor will there be conflict in her mind over her new form and popularity. If this ends up being the case, any kind of interest in the character will be flushed down the bog. Number 2. The lawyer aspect of Jennifer Walters will be background setting and not used for anything meaningful. We've already seen a fight in a courtroom and other unrelated events taking place in offices. The big worry is the whole courtroom system won't be used, or won't be used effectively, wasting the many opportunities it could provide. We could miss out on everything from sensible cameos to world building to explanations. Speaking of, Number 3. Daredevil will be a one-off splash in the pan cameo and won't be used for anything meaningful. A fight, a surprise appearance in the courtroom, and then he's off. Now that will be a waste. Number 4. There will be no explanations for Bruce Banner being Bruce Banner or turning back into the Hulk, the appearance of all the super people, world-changing events from other films and shows, or, if it ends up being significant, where Doctor Strange is during all the magic stuff. Number 5. The magic stuff is in fact yet another world-threatening event, which will overshadow all other aspects of the show and kill any investment in She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Number 6. Emil Blonsky won't be much of a muchness and will once again be a key jangling cameo, wasting not only the potential of the character, but the talent of Tim Roth. I hope none of these come to pass, but being realistic, I expect at least some of them to happen. At the same time, I hope they are balanced out by some of the positive aspects I've proposed, or others I haven't even thought of. Then again, there might be something awful I haven't thought of either. One thing that occurred to me was the opportunity the Disney Corporation has here. Over and over again, from Star Wars to Marvel to classic reboots, Disney has pushed the strong female character. More often than not, these attempts fall flat and usually foul up existing stories. Not always, but even then you can feel the hand on the tiller. But with She-Hulk they may have finally found their golden goose. She-Hulk isn't just a strong female character, she is the strong female character. On top of that, there's two very defined sides to her, allowing for a mixing of feminine traits. If done right, She-Hulk could be the standard bearer of a well done empowered woman in media that most everyone from old gatekeepers to newfound fans will be happy to get behind. Or they could fail miserably, but hey, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, that took longer than I thought it would. Turns out you can talk a lot about something you thought you didn't know a lot about. I will stress, although this is all based off the trailers and featurette and the little bit of history I know, it is all speculation about what we could be getting. Once the first episode has aired, I will make a video discussing it, which will continue for as long as She-Hulk Attorney at Law remains a good watch. Who knows? Maybe this will only be for one episode. For my more regular viewers, there's a larger video in the works that's going to be on a more familiar subject. Once again, please subscribe so I can get paid for this. Like, share and comment for the engagement, as well as sharing your thoughts on what I've said and or on what you think She-Hulk might have to offer. Links to my Patreon and my Etsy store will be in the description if you fancy it. Last but not least, thank you for watching.